Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Way of the Warrior. My name's Trevor Martin, the host, obviously. And if you've been around with Way of the Warrior, you know that I like going out onto social media and finding individuals that are pushing back against the darkness via their personal life or their professional life or a hobby, something that they're doing. But it's something that has absolutely um, taken me not really maybe by surprise, but it's really got my attention. So I have with me today one of those badasses, AC Steele. And AC, I got to tell you, thank you so much. We've had some badass conversations prior to this, but thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love your podcast. I love everybody who talks on here and about their, their struggles and their sadness, which it was kind of sounds weird, right? To say that, like, I
Yeah.
love hearing about, their sad journeys. But I guess it's the point is that it's just kind of like, see, they're okay. I'll be okay.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I appreciate that, especially that comment right there. They're okay, I'll be okay. So when Way of the Warrior came about, when Way of the Warrior started, it was about, I thought there's so many of these stories that people have got to share them because that message is going to reach somebody else, and that somebody is going to go, oh, if AC did it,
Yeah.
I can do it, right? And that's what all this is about. It's simply about help and hope. Putting that light back into this dark world because we know, and we know, right? We know that there is darkness ever looming and it creeps in through the fucking cracks. Like, I mean, it will saturate your entire world if you let it.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, and from talking with you before, that you have a certain kind of moxie that not very many, and I'll let you tell your tale, but yeah, a certain kind of moxie that very few people have. And I know from
Thank you.
the pre-call talking with you and trying to figure out like what is that, what exactly your plan is, and hearing it and going and knowing the fuel that you're using for this plan, I'm like, I don't even know how you do it. So seriously, thank you for not only what you do, but for being willing to openly discuss it. So let's rewind just a little bit, and I'm excited about what you're going to talk about, what you're actually doing. But take us back a little bit. Let's hear a little bit about you, what you've been through, and who you are.
Yeah. Thank you. You know what? Moxie is such a good word. Usually, that's not usually some of the words that people use to describe me, but I like that. I like moxie.
Ah,
Um,
you can keep it.
right. You know what? I might. Thank you. It's been actually a really, really long journey, and I know that I really appreciate you connecting and talking to me about what I've been building. And the story behind it is kind of why we're here and what we want to talk about. So I
Um,
started Pathfinder. It's basically a hybrid mental health tool. It's clinical purpose. It's like clinical use for people who are going through prolonged grief, PTSD, traumatic events. They're going through that kind of therapy. This tool is meant as like an intercession engagement connector between the patient and the therapist in between the regular person sessions. It's meant to, I don't know if you know, but the mental health care system in the US, at least, allows for one therapy session a month, pretty much. You might get lucky and have that good insurance that maybe gives you two, or you might be able to afford to pay for a second session. But when you're going through this kind of intense traumatic grief or experiences, you get shoved into this completely different place to where you have to have so much support and engagement because the that place, sitting in that place of grief, is just absolutely terrifying, like
yeah.
terrifying. And it feels like you live in just a completely different planet and a different reality than everybody else. And having something where you can call and check in at 2 a.m. just to trauma dump, right? If you just have to just get all these feelings out and these things out, you can talk to it, and it just supports. It's not there to give you advice. It's not there to say, oh, go, something generic about journaling or something like that, unless your therapist does recommend that. So that's, that's a little bit of the caveat. If they say go journal, it will ask you if you're journaling. And if you're not, it'll ask you why. But it's just meant to basically collect all these insights and send them back to your therapist. So by the time you get to your next session, you can pick up where you left off instead of having to loop. And that kind of goes back to my story as a whole. The reason I created it was in June of 2024. It was Father's Day, and I am going to get emotional. I got a call that my oldest son, who was 18, committed suicide. And it was very acute. Nobody knew. And when we had finally gotten his phone and we looked through it, it looks like he had researched the methods for about 2 hours or so. And then he called my dad to wish him a happy Father's Day and left us. And the aftermath was just the place that you go when these kind of things happen to you is just, I say that I call it the void, right? You all of a sudden just get
Yeah.
shoved in and it's pitch black, which is kind of crazy, right? Because people are like, obviously you have eyeballs and you're here, but it's just, you're not in your body anymore. I didn't feel anything, like nothing
You're numb.
except yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to be, because you'd wake up every morning and for just like a split second in the morning, I'd remember for just a split second when I'd wake up and it was just you like forget. And I think the worst part is waking up every morning and forgetting for that split second, as you're kind of coming back online, waking up from the sleep cycle, and then all of a sudden it hits you and it's just like somebody took just what's that? It's the A-Team's like band, right? That conversion band, and just wham, it's probably the weight of Mr. T's necklaces, honestly, but
Fair.
yeah, right. And I had to go and sit through these things that a mother should never have to do, talking to the coroner's office. I couldn't get a hold of the sheriff's department because I was out of town at the time, and trying to understand what happened, somehow, and this is the craziest part about it, and nobody really knows, but his friends had known something had happened. I guess this girl that he had been seeing had taken her own life. I think a Thursday night. He found out on a Friday, and he was gone by Sunday. I didn't know she was there, that she existed in his life. She was new. I knew about his previous girlfriend, and they had just broken up, like a month before, and it was nothing like that for him. But his friends had been with him, and they said that he just got up and just kind of walked out, and they didn't know where he was in my house. And so my property, we had a 2.25 acres, and so the front part of the property is just all pasture, house, and the back part is the barn, and that's where he had gone down there. They said that he just kind of got up and walked up, and they thought that I had, come to get him or something like that. So they left, and then nobody could get a hold of him. And I had talked to him earlier that day, right before he called my dad. Had nothing, just like a regular day. And he it was this, sorry, it's just like a
You're
wild
fine.
thing. And when that happened, so they found him, they called 911. They found him later that night, I think about 9 something, somewhere around there. And the fire department showed up, and then for some reason tons of people started showing up. So the police didn't block off, the sheriff's department didn't block off the end of my driveway. So when you pull into my driveway, it's a really long driveway, the house is in the middle, and then you keep driving and the barn's down in the back. And they just kind of fenced off the area going to the back, right? So it was kind of past my house, and they didn't actually protect the house. And so somehow word got out that it happened, and by the time my parents had gotten down there, they live about 30 minutes away. Or, by the time they heard the news and they got down there, they had to park down the street. My mom was saying that it was just like this big block party. And she's like, it's like a football game let out. She's like, there's cars everywhere. She's like, we couldn't even park in your driveway. There's so many people. And they walk into my house and she's like, it's just packed, packed with people that I didn't even know. People were going in and out of my son's room. They took, things that I had this little thing on the fridge where it was my son when he had gone to a preparatory academy when I was going through law school. And for a minute, they couldn't text you, they couldn't call you for a while, right? Like when they went through their initial kind of boot camp phase. And he had written me a letter, right, on paper. And he just randomly, in one of the letters, just threw in this little scribble of John Denver's Take Me Home. And so it was the words, take me home to the place where I belong. And that was on my fridge. And that was like the first thing I thought of on the whole drive. I was down in Las Vegas with my partner at the time. And we drove all the way up because I couldn't sit on an airplane. Like I couldn't do it. And I couldn't find that and I couldn't do these. And I mean, it was such a hard thing. And so navigating that place where all of a sudden he had taken up so much of your life and then he was gone, it was like a vacuum. And you kind of get
Right.
sucked into that vacuum, into that space, and you don't really know how to exist. You don't kind of know where to go. Uh, so with,
I-
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think, right there, just you try and you try and put yourself, it's I don't you try and put yourself in somebody's shoes. So as you're listening to this, like, okay, how would I feel, right? And what what sticks with there's certain things that stick with me. What sticks with me is the note on the fridge that take me home, the John Denver, and the thinking that your mind went to that as you're, as you're traveling up. And I wonder, was there ever any moment or any time where maybe now, is there any does that bring you any peace at all? Like that letter, that note, does
Well,
it bring you any?
it was missing. It's gone. I actually don't know where it went.
Okay.
Yeah, I got there and I couldn't find it. But I do have like other letters, that he had sent, or basically he's like, oh hey, because he was new and he's like, I need snacks, like lots of snacks, right? Because that was the kind of the currency, I guess, right?
Yeah.
These boys are from all over the world and they're in this military school in Alabama, and it wasn't like the bad military school. They're the military preparatory school for like West Point. You know what I mean? Like
Got it.
so
Yep.
it's not like a reformatory thing. I think some kids did go there. He would tell me some stories about some crazy kids jumping out of windows and taking off. They're in the middle of like the boondocks, Alabama. So they're not getting far. But he loved it. He loved it. And the reason he went to that was because I was going through law school and going through a divorce. And I couldn't give him that structure to be able to make sure he was getting to school on time, because even though the school was 4 houses down, he was in high school at that point. He was sleeping through his alarms. I was out of the house by about 5 a.m. every day. And even though I'd go in and bang on the door and, let him know, like, hey, buddy, right, I got to go to work. I need you to get up. It just couldn't happen. And this was kind of that measure that I took just to make sure that he had that chance to succeed, right? And because I was spread so thin and I was trying so hard to go to law school and be a lawyer and do these things, that he didn't get left behind in any way. My mom, she's just a killer in the corporate world, right? She works in insurance and she climbed her way up from the mailroom to, I think she's like number 4 in this big insurance company now, but it was kind of at our expense, moving and constantly moved. Every promotion came with the move. She was always working. My dad, and this was the time where, the men were always supposed to be the breadwinners. And so if he's having to follow his wife around, then that caused, some feelings for him of inadequacy. And so it felt like for us kids, like we didn't really have, much stability or that kind of thing. And so that was my main focus. And I thought if I could just do that, then he wouldn't struggle maybe as much as we did. And when that, I'm not one of the things that suicide survivors go through is this intense grief, or not grief, excuse me, obviously, but guilt. And
Yeah.
and even though everybody's like it's not your fault, but oh man, do you just rip yourself apart. And I remember when I got the news, it just like I just started just screaming, just this, but it was more of that like guttural feral kind of scream to where, my partner was like, I have never heard somebody make that sound before. And I couldn't, like, nothing could touch me. Like, I was trying to just rip everything off of my body. And because I'm like trying to tear away at my own body is kind of the response that I had. And it was, and oh man, I just like, we actually went because I was like, I don't know if I'm having like a heart attack. We had gone to the ER and they're like, well, the only thing we can do for you is basically put you on a hold. And it's just like, I just want you to put me to sleep. Like, I just want to go to sleep because that I must be dying, right? Like I must be having a heart attack because there's no way that somebody experiences this and like lives. And the most messed up part is you do. You do live, unfortunately. And time is your worst enemy. I remember because it was June and January was coming up, not just because January was his birthday, he was turning 19 that next birthday, but because we were going into a whole new year where I don't have memories of him in this year. I did last year, but not this year. And, not being able to say, what year that is, just knowing all those memories stop in that year, you don't want to move forward because,
Yeah.
and it just, it's so hard. And I, building out this tool has been kind of crazy because I do visit it. And actually what's kind of funny is I've been the initial tester for it. So I'm sitting there talking to it and, looking at its feedback and just being like, no, I don't want to hear that. Right. So when people actually are going to be able to sit down with this agent, it's like, I have been literally spending hours just sitting there talking to it and telling these stories and reliving these things and feeling these things. The other night, this was the last conversation I had with it as I was making stew. Stew was his favorite. Stew was his favorite. And I always had to have French bread. Heaven forbid I forgot to get the French bread. And I'm cooking and I had a great day, right? Tons of meetings, everything's going great. And then just wham. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's because I was like cutting up the carrots or whatever, or I was putting the peas in, and he is like, too much peas, right? Like I always get the feedback from my food critic. And
Right.
yeah, it just like hit. And I mean, this was just a couple days ago. So this was a year and some change since I've lost him. And man, just wishing that I could just make it for him one more time. That even though I'm solid, that just still just kind of like knocks you off kilter a little bit. You start just kind of like, it's like you get wobbly. It's you're not going down, but you just kind of get wobbly for a second and you straighten out, but that intensity is still there. And knowing that you're going to be dealing with that for the rest of your life can get really intense. And it is a time thing where time does make it better. But I have kind of just really found this purpose in knowing what it took for me to be able to get through that, and knowing that other people are experiencing this and that they don't know what to do and they don't know how to get help. And a lot of the times with this, right? So the tool is meant to just kind of be it's for those that are in existing therapy. It doesn't replace that they're, it's basically the thing that you talk to that talks back to your therapist. And they, I'm in this subreddit forum, and that's actually where I found most of my support. It's the suicide bereavement group. And it's
Okay.
people that have like literally found out yesterday that they lost somebody to suicide, and all the way to people who have lost their son 30 years ago and are still in there and talking about it and doing these things is exactly that, right? They need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to not tell them it's going to be okay, right? You don't need to tell them that. It's not that it's that. It's just they just need a hand, and it's like that hand in the dark to just help pull them along the path, because no matter what you say, they are not going to feel like it's going to be okay. They do not feel like it's going to be easy. And so even though I have gone through that journey and I can actually say like time really does make the difference, but it doesn't make it any easier to
Right.
endure day after day this part. So for people who don't have a great support system, right? Or even if you do, the apathy that people feel when you're constantly looping back to the same thing over and over and over again, it's just you wear them out, and it's understandable. Grief, especially by suicide, is so heavy and it takes so much energy to support somebody with that.
Do you think so? Going back to that, the void, going back to the edge, when at the loss of your son, when you realize you're in that void, you realize that you're in that abyss, you realize that, hey, I've just lost this and I don't, you said, hey, look, I just want to sleep. I feel like I'm dying. I just want to sleep. I'm going to guess that somewhere along the way, right, you talk about time, but I'm going to guess that somewhere along the way, the pathfinder, this whole purpose behind this, right, with all of this moving forward, kind of helped you come out of that void step by step.
Well,
um
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So honestly, it was actually Pathfinder didn't even really, the concept didn't actually kind of come about until it was kind of towards the end. So it was getting closer to the 1 year kind of anniversary of his death. And I had
Yeah.
planned just a private um spreading of his ashes just with me and my partner. And we went out to Kauai, and he's in the Lauai Bay in Kauai. It's where I guess they filmed some scene from like Fantasy Island with the guy going like the plane, or I've never seen it, so I don't know. But and the reason that I brought him there was because when he was in that military school, he's like, we never go anywhere, we never do anything fun. And so me and my younger brother surprised him with a trip to Hawaii, but COVID happened. And because he was in Alabama, he was several hours away from any of the laboratories that Hawaii would accept at the time. So I had to cancel it and we never got to go. So for me, this was that spreading his ashes there on the 1 year of losing him was kind of that full circle where I'm just like, I got you here, and this isn't what the way that I wanted to, but it was just kind of closing that thing for me. But that spreading of his ashes was really kind of cathartic because I watched, as I had to plan out, I had to pick his urn, I had to fill out the paperwork, I had to make sure that he got transferred to a funeral home. And I watched I put presents in the cardboard coffin, that he was in, and drew pictures all over it, and things to him. And that it was that moment where it's like, okay, there's these two people sitting there watching you. And so that they're clearly like, okay, we know that you're like going through it, lady, but like, come on, we got things to do. Because it's literally like, it wasn't in some room, it was like they open a door and you like go in, and it's like straight incinerator and concrete. And they had kind of like a screen up because I think you don't have to see the waiting list, I guess, if you want to say,
Yeah.
behind it. And I colored it and I put my hand on it, and I couldn't take it off. I just physically could not get myself to take it off because I knew that when I stepped away, it was the last moment that his physical body would be in the same place as me. And so when I finally did have to step away, and they kept saying like, oh, most people don't need to like stay for this or don't want to stay for this. And I was like, he's by himself, like I can't let my boy like, even though he was gone and I knew that part of him was gone, but like I brought him into this world, so I couldn't like leave yet, because if I had to experience this where he's leaving it, then I'm gonna be there. And I stood there and watched it go in, and that's um one of the hardest, honestly, the hardest moment of my life was that moment. And for a lot of parents, and I know everybody, they can only fathom, and even like them just kind of sitting there thinking like, oh my God, if this was me, you really can't. And to kind of like get up after that, to just kind of keep going because I really didn't want to, right? I just wanted to be like, guys, I just want to go and just screw on for the rest of the day. It's like nobody asks anything of me anymore, right? And unfortunately, with my personality, that's not how it happens. But it. Sorry, I just got a little lost. But
You're fine.
it's just one of those things where I feel almost kind of bulletproof now because I did that. I had to go through that where I'm putting letters from his little sister in there with him, putting letters from her and his favorite things from different people and my favorite things, for him in there as that goodbye portion. When you do that, like, man, and just kind of referencing Pathfinder because it's AI and because people are really pushing back against AI being a mental health, which again I totally understand, but it's coming anyway. So we got to figure out how we're going to use it in that space instead of just saying no, it's not going to happen. When they give me that pushback about AI being a problem in mental health and what I'm doing is wrong because I'm bringing something in that they don't think, right. I'm bringing in this computer that is basically an essential like brain into this thing where it could do bad things. And it's one is because they don't know what Pathfinder's actual use case is. But it's just like, that's fine, come talk to me, like, please. First off, I want holes poked in it, but the second, it's just like nothing you're going to say to me is going to affect it, right? Like, it's just like, you can't hurt me. Like, if I have gone through that kind of stuff and I am here actually calling people and talking to people and coding this thing myself because I don't have the resources to hire an engineer, and we're preparing for an accelerator, and so I got to do this, and I'm literally figuring it out as I go. It's like the second they push back, and I've had a couple of conversations like that. We're like, no, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. I was like, look, I understand, but listen to what it actually does and its actual purpose, right? Because the reason I know this, right? I'm not just some kid who graduated out of MIT and decided that this is what is needed and just built it, right? They've never maybe experienced anything catastrophic. Their therapy is, I feel a lot of stress and anxiety around what they do, blah, blah, blah. This is, I went to that dark, dark place and disappeared and came back. And so if I got through that and I now know what it is that needs to be done for those that maybe can't get that kind of in-person support the way that they need to, let's see if this can do something, right? And the second I say, well, I lost my son to suicide, so I actually built this because of exactly what I went through and what I heard from other people going through this, and what I know about that journey is exactly the reason why I made it. It makes them take a step back, because again, it's like,
Yeah.
look, I'm not saying that I know engineering or anything like that, because I don't. I've been having to teach myself, and oh my god, coding is so hard. I have such a healthy respect for engineers now. I've been up so many late nights trying to just like figure this out, and I'm just like, oh my god. So
Well, I think you see, I think you that you're I think you are an absolute amazing individual, and I'm going to tell you what. Um, I I want my family to watch this. Um, I do. I think that, selfishly, we watch something like this and we go, you just said it, like you said, hey, I lost my son to suicide, and people go, oh, no, I'm listening now.
yeah,
Oh, so, oh, you're doing this because of personal reasons. Oh, oh, I'm sorry. Like now you have my attention. You know, we need to be thankful. First of all, we need to be thankful. Obviously, I can't tell you, hearing this is like it makes me obviously very thankful for where I'm at and how much I want to hug my fucking kids. Like,
I
swear
know,
to
I was gonna
God.
say you want to go run and hug your babies, don't you? Yeah.
100%, 100%. But on top of that, it's making sure that we honor your son, that we tell the story, that we say, hey, look, here's something that somebody's doing. Yes, a traumatic event happened, a horrible, horrendous event happened, and you would think that some people would just roll over and give up. Instead, there's individuals like yourself that say, all right, took that one on the fucking chin. That hurt. Well, that hurt. And selfishly, I just want to just be focused on me and not really care about anybody else because something was taken. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what was taken and I'm going to try to build something so that through all of that, through his memory, through everything, we can give. And when we give, we put that goodness, that kindness back in the world, and we give other people a fucking chance, a shot, right?
Yeah.
And I think that right there, tip of the hat. That's like,
Thank you.
thank you. You're
And
welcome.
I do have to be really honest, right? Like when you mentioned, kind of rolling over and giving up that I wanted to, we kind of do, right? And I did. It's just
Fair.
you can roll over and give up because for a minute, right? There's a difference because when you go through that kind of grief, and especially me as a mother, and everybody always kind of, and I'm not just saying just because I'm a mother, but in my life and in the way that my life was kind of structured with the people around me, it was always taking. Everybody was taking, and I'm giving,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm working to prove whatever that I'm trying to keep ourselves afloat and do all these things. That when you lose somebody like that, you are allowed, and I want to make sure like they're allowed to be selfish. They are allowed that if they do not want to get out of bed that day, boo, stay in bed. Stay in bed because that is what you need, right? Listen to your body. Like they just have to, like the support system around them just has to just hear them. And whatever it is they're saying they need, just let them have that, figure that out. And, because I did roll over and give up. I guess maybe give up isn't the right word, but it's like I put myself on timeout.
Yeah.
I rolled
I like
over.
that.
I rolled over and just like shut everything off. Like, no, like I'm inaccessible, like just in every way because I don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
the support I had was not great. And so I didn't, because I think that if I did try in any kind of capacity to overcome it too soon, because that was one of the things too, is that everybody's just like, nobody would talk about him. And then they're just like, we're kind of ready, right? To like, aren't you kind of like ready to start doing it? Like, yeah, it's sad, but you got two other kids. And that's true. But man, like, again, seeing those things that I had seen and had to experience and had to do, that's not how that works. It just isn't, right? Like, so it's
Right.
not that all of a sudden it's just like I found this like this mission in this thing. It was just kind of everything just kind of kept leading me there because the more I started to seek support, again, back to that Reddit forum, when I'm talking to them and I'm seeing these things and I'm actually chiming in, being like, oh my God, I remember that. Like I'm 6 months out from when it happened. So I can tell you that like what you are going through is totally normal. And this is what that feels like. It gives them a place to be like, okay, because, their friends don't know, nobody else knows. But it's not that, sorry, I got off a tangent, but it's not
Right.
that we don't roll over. We should be allowed to roll over. It's just rolling back over. It's rolling
Right
back
on.
over and just kind of being like, because it is a choice. You can choose to either do something
Yeah.
about it or not. And in my specific case, is if I went through all of this, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on your podcast, but like if
I, you can swear all you want. I'm dropping F bombs this whole fucking time. Go
okay,
ahead.
okay, I didn't know. That's why I'm just like, okay, like I know what we normally do in our normal calls, if that's the case here, right? But like, oh my god, like just like, but that's kind of the beauty in it, and that's one of the things that honestly, like for me, is after we hit the 1 year mark, and I went to Hawaii and I came back. That is literally when I started building Pathfinder because I had actually reverse engineered an AI bot that I was working on for a sales training tool for something else. And I found its use case and I started to explore it more. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went off. And I live in this zone of zero fucks given, and it's just this really, yeah, and it's just like, man, it's really kind of fun over here, guys. Like, so for those who are coming out of it, and just being able to find that one thing that can get you moving through is the best thing to do. And then just, you don't have to have all that extra noise and all that extra shit around you.
Preach, preach.
It's just, I have now seen, like you said, right? It makes you want to go hug your babies. And I've been so busy lately that I feel like my kids are just like, woo, mom's checked out. I can go do all these things, right? I found a container of frosting in my daughter's bed because she had snuck down to the kitchen and got a can of like cake frosting. And so I'm just like, okay, right? I was like, guys, just enjoy it now. I'm like, mom's really busy right now, but like pretty soon, things are going to even out as we're building, and I'm going to be able to like kind of come back around again. But man, guys, just being able to just like when somebody says something or does something, you're just like, okay, right? Like, not
Yep.
to go back to again, and you just look at what you've been through and look at all the other stuff. It's just so many things become so insignificant that it's just
I
kind
think,
of like, okay.
yeah, I think, I'm glad that you found that power, and just how you're using it is absolutely amazing. You mentioned the word support, and so as we close this up, I want to go back to the audience. I'm going to say, audience, listen, this is definitely somebody, AC, somebody that you need to connect with. You need to connect with. You need to, spend some time having conversations with her. You need to find out exactly. We've heard a little bit about here, but go deeper. Find out a little bit more about what she's about and what she is building, what she's doing, especially as in regards to mental health and helping individuals, right, as she moves forward into the future. AC, can you tell us, the audience real quick, how can they get a hold of you? What social media platforms are you on? What's the best way to kind of connect with you?
I am the worst, honestly.
Yeah.
So I I
At least
don't
you're
do
honest.
I
Mm.
don't do like social media. I'm
Okay.
not I like so when I had lost him, I actually deleted all that stuff. I like totally, and so like it's been so nice not having it that I don't have it. The only thing that I have right now is LinkedIn because that's what I
Okay.
like needed when I was kind of getting the career back on path. And so I'm
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
okay, I don't want to get on Instagram right now, and so it's LinkedIn, and that's kind of where we're at. I know I need to change that. I should probably do something about that, but
Hey, all in your own time.
yeah.
And so I appreciate you, letting people know that, hey, you can find me on LinkedIn. Audience, definitely make sure that you are doing that. Um, AC, once again, like, and I know we'll have more conversations, but from like the bottom of my heart, like, thank you very much for being on this show. But more importantly, thank you for doing what you're doing others because you don't have to, but you are. You're choosing, to fight that fight. So seriously, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a love hate relationship with it, but I'm going to do what
I
I can
get
do.
that.
Do everything
I
I can
get
do.
that.
So
I
thank
get
you.
that.
Thank you. It was such a privilege. I love our conversations. We have such great conversations. So thank you for letting me just kind of tell that story to the world. I haven't actually told that story to the world like that yet. So this is the first place that I've done that. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm honored that you were able to share that experience, that you feel comfortable enough to do so. So thank you for that. It means a lot. Audience, we're going to close out. Make sure you connect with AC, and we'll see you next time.